Dr. Bella, who is giving? Is it Helen? No, who is talking today? Dr. Bella, who is the lecturer for today,
Professor
please?
Ohaeri.
Okay, Jude. Okay, Professor Ohaeri. Is he online?
He is trying to join us, but he has a
Okay, all right.
recording which we'll start with before we move.
All right.
He will join us, sir.
Okay, we start. Okay, all right.
It's
So
recording.
anytime, fine. So, well, maybe there'll be more questions today because people have their own definitions for the mind. I have a psychiatrist I'm close to who always tells me that the mind is something else, and I tell him that he's pushing us to dualism, and we left it centuries ago. So let's say it would be nice to hear what Jude's attitude, thoughts are about the mind. And like I said, it's going to be really rich in discussions. I'm sure we'll need more than a week to finish the discussion on what the mind is itself, the structure and function of the mind. That alone would take us a. People have been debating it for centuries, but let's see how he's going to present it, and then we take up the discussion from there. So, Dr. Bill, I think they want to start it from there, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, over to you.
Thank you, sir. I will
All
start
right.
it right away, sir. Please, if you cannot hear the voice, kindly let me know.
Maybe I should state clearly. We got Jude. He had to do a recording of it because of network issues from where he stays. So as we go on, he'll join us later on, and then I'm sure he'll be there live during the discussions. So anytime, Dr. Bello, you can play it now, so we can start.
Okay, my friends, thank you for inviting me. I'm most grateful to you for the generosity of heart that made it possible for me to attend this conference in this ancient city with this Christian beauty further enhanced by modern infrastructure. I will say kudos to Peter Jiboye, the head of the organizing committee. I consider this lecture to be one of the most important in my professional career because I tend to put you through some novel information. First, I have synthesized knowledge from Koinida's description of the mind and thereby produced a comprehensive diagrammatic representation of the psyche in a way that is not yet found in the literature. And that's on slide 29. Second, I've synthesized what I consider to be Sigmund Freud's dream or hope by suggesting a brain representation of the structure and function of the mind. And how I did this was by situating the structure and function of the mind in the simple network model of Lennon, which is on slide 40. Thus bringing together the fields of cognitive neuroscience, phenomenology, psychoanalysis, psychotherapy, and psychopathology in slide 46. These two novel ideas will be the highlights of the presentation. But let's start from one of our Nobel laureates in the country. There have been only just three. This is one of them, Mary Campbell of Columbia. He stated the main concern of this presentation that psychoanalysis has entered the 21st century with its influence declining. And he said that this influence was detectable because, according to him, psychoanalysis represents the most coherent and intellectually satisfying view of the mind. He also emphasized that The professional requirements for future psychiatrists will demand a greater knowledge of the structure and function in the brain than is currently available, even in most training programs in America. In this ideas were written up in his landmark papers to use in American Journal of Psychiatry. I always ask my students to go and read through these papers if they're serious about psychotherapy. That is American Journal. It's referred in 1998 and 19. But his ideas, of course, follow from Sigmund Freud, and he was a psychoanalyst. I mean, Campbell. He stated that, Freud stated that we must reconnect that all of our provisional ideas is psychology. We presumably one day depend on an organic self structure. He was interested in this organic self structure when he constructed what he called the idea of the project. And he thought that the deficiencies in our description will be more complete if there to be progress in physiology or biochemistry or both of them. And that was his idea to find the brain representation of the psychic structure and psychic functioning as psychotherapy. This is your lecture outline. This what I'm talking about really is the field of the global science and thought. And we will go through quite a lot of things. The two main points being what I'm applying there. It is important to understand the structure of the site or that aspect of consciousness that mental health practitioners are interested in. You can imagine a surgeon will not operate on a body without having a thorough understanding of the anatomy of the area that is operating in. Yet, we see people practice psychology practice and in a clinical sense, and they don't pretend to know about the psychic structure. The best understanding of the psychic structure comes from the field of psychoanalysis. They say from the modern era. And so the neglect of that field it is really important. Well, let's go to post-structural and topographical models. Initially, the understanding of the structure of the mind was controlled structural models, which focus on the key influence behaviors and elements of the mind or personality as we call it. And then the topographical model, the two of them actually interweaving in the diagonal experience. And according to him and his group, the dynamics of interaction between the structural and topographical models is used to understand psychological problems in psychopathology and psychopathology symptoms such as anxiety situation, using conflicts between elements of the structural model within the operation and incorporating the dynamics of the defense. Let me unwrap. So let's start with the topographical model. So you have the conscious mind. Me and you are awake and listening to it and noise, hopefully. And so what I taught us that this aspect of the mind whereby we are awake and listening is only a tip of the iceberg. So this is the iceberg, but this is the big part of the ice that is a mass, in the sea, in the water. So you have the conscious mind, the pre-conscious and the conscious. And the conscious level, he said, will consist of our thoughts, our conscious thoughts and perceptions, our pre-conscious or subconscious level will consist of our memories and stored knowledge, Whereas our deep unconscious will consist of our fears, our urges, the kind of things we are ashamed that we've done, our selfish needs. So that's the topography, that is layers of the mind. As opposed to that, or in consonance with that, will then be what we call the products of consciousness. The things that actually are elements within the mind of the personality. So you have that again, you see the conscious level, the pre-conscious, and the conscious. So those three elements, you have the ego, the superego, and the E. Whereas the ego and the superego, they can function at the three levels, that is conscious, pre-conscious, and unconscious. The E is only functioning in the unconscious. And that statement I told you I will not see how it is. So according to the psychoanalyst, this is their conceptual framework of psychotherapy, how the mental disorders work. But this explanation really is for so-called psychoanalysis, which become at a certain level of development according to Kenyatta. It's not there, it's not every time that in the stages of life it will develop news. At the earlier stages, you have the disposition to developing other forms of mental disorders, which are more biologically rooted. So according to this theory, the fundamental basis of psychopathology is either a fixation at the level of development or a splitting or dissociation at that level. Using drug addiction, for instance, people who have drug problems. They are viewed as being fixated at the oral stages of development. And the oral stages, this audience already knows what I mean by that. That's when you're a baby, and their most concern is for what enters into. That is this person's life energy predominantly focused, or I can say orchestral, at satisfying the appetite. These people are orally driven. So up to this level, there are three broad psychopathologies. That's at the level that we were talked about, which I show you subsequent statements. At the lowest level, you have psychosis or autism, borderline personality, such as narcissism, and then neurosis. So when the ego has been formed at say 53, as I will show you in the next slide, the unconscious conflicts can result in psychoneurosis in the following dynamics. That is, if you have the superego pressing down on the id, not allowing it to express itself, and this class knows the name of ego, superego, and id. So I don't need to go through that again. So this suppression of the id impulses by the superego will lead you to what is called original news, that is repression and inhibition. If on the other hand you have that the ego is not able to overcome the id impulses, so the ego is overwhelmed by the id. This will lead you to anxiety and obsession. Whereas if you have a situation whereby the superego is able to, or it doesn't allow the ego to express itself, this will lead to depression and anxiety and guilt. Well, let me explain further these elements, ego, superego, and id. For the other audience who may listen to this program, you find out what we mean by ego In that aspect of their personality that has to take a decision, has to deal with reality. In government setup, for instance, that would be like the executive arm of government. Then you have another aspect of the personality mind, which is to judge you, to restrain your impulses, to prevent you from doing whatever is wrong. We will put that as the, let's say, Department of Justice or the judiciary, you know. Then you have the aspect of the personality that's always demanding, always wants you to give into something, usually things that are known, you know, or restraint, wants everything. So that aspect of the personality we call the id. And you could relate that to the parliament all over the world, whether states or national level. There's always demanding that the executive will do this or that, but the executive will have to see what it can do. That is as evil within the ambit provided by the law, which is the super ego. So if you can understand this, acknowledge. Now, there are actually many ways that these theories have been formulated, and I've given you a link for at least 17 of them. There could be more. In this link that I'm giving you, there are actually 15 of them. But I've added young and maybe there's theories to this. The idea is that beginning from point, there have been attempts to understand psychopathology from a point of view of the biological development of the psychic system and it has doing with the adulthood. In other words, just like we have developmental stages in pediatrics, such as holding the head, sitting, crawling, standing. This is about the physical body, walking and talking. We are all familiar with this pediatrics. The psychoanalysts told us that there are also basic developmental stages in the psychic spectrum. And these are conceptualized by different theories. The new Freudians are those who conceptualize this theory from the point of view of culture and the environment, whereas the more biological ones conceptualize it in different, in such a way as if it is actually like the nervous system growing up to be able to hold the head and crawl and walk and talk. So you find what I'll do now is that I will actually in consequence slide pick from these 17 theories and divide them into two. What I call the basic structure actually can wave upon the basic structures as opposed to transitional structures. I will explain this to you. So these are the 17 theories of healing. Most of them are like what we call neophoidians. I told you neophoidians are people who look more towards the social and cultural aspects that affect development of the mind. So, but some of these people have listed are actually biologists. So, what I've highlighted, the ones in bolder print, are what I'll call, or what can move upon basic stages. Examples in Freud and Jean Piaget, that is number 4, the cognitive developmental stages. Most of what I'm going to say really is based on these two. Because Freud, uh, psychosocial development, combined with the cognitive developmental stages by Jean Piaget. Those are what Weber calls the basic structures. But there are also what we call the transitional structures, and I'll explain what I mean by that. For instance, the hierarchy of needs by Abraham Maslow, that's number 10. The number 14, the Lawrence Kohlberg stages of moral development, and number 17, the loving out sense of the self, the self identity. So let's go to what the Wood is saying. He's saying that in constructing what he called the two spectrum model, he said that a combination of the psychosocial and cognitive developments constitutes the basic structure of the psyche, which is what we know in conventional psychology, what has been elaborated. What has not been better elaborated is what I'm going to say next. Because he has looked into other models of psychology from the transpersonal world and has articulated 9 basic structures or stages. 6 of them are what he calls the pre-personal and personal level, and 3 of them are the transpersonal level, or what you may call spiritual level, as you please. Now, as I said, Wilbur also noted there are other types of development that the psyche undergoes, but which are more transitional in the sense that they can change, whereas the basic structures are more biological and stable. Let's unpack what that means. Examples of transitional structures are, as in the model of Abraham Maslow and the hierarchy of needs, which people are familiar with, and Kohlberg's hierarchy of moral development. These structures are considered transitional. They are considered to be dependent on the stage at which you are. In other words, they are phase specific. They depend on where you are in the stages of the basic development. In the sense that they are based on the levels of that basic development. For instance, to develop self-esteem, you need to have grown up mentally to a level of what um, Piaget called formal operations, that level of formal operation. You can't have self-esteem if you're 1 year old. You know, that's not your level yet. So you have to get to that level. So it is transitional because when you got there, you will not find out when you get to the level where you have self-esteem. You will find that circumstances could change and what you consider to be so important is no longer important, and you look at self-esteem in order to gain some selfish motives, in order to fulfill some selfish motives. So this level of morality or esteem you have developed at the earliest stage can actually evaporate in the face of adverse circumstances in life, you know, whereas those other basic structures, levels of development, they are there with you, they are biologically rooted. So that's the difference between the basic structures and the what do I call it, the transitional structure. So that's why you commonly find where this example I saw in the University of Ibadan, we were coming out of the gate and the gateman was trying to stop people so that cars can move in an orderly manner. So he expected that people, being professors, being highly educated people, they would obey simple rules. They will. They have grown to that level. But you see, this was a rush hour. The vehicles were coming everywhere. And they were not listening to you. Say, oh, we said in Yoruba, all you people who are so called educated, you can't even obey me. So that's the example that even when you're educated and you know the rules, you should obey them. But when circumstances change, when you think you can escape, you will disobey. You will do wrong things, you know. So that sense of morality, obedience that we expect from you as an educated person is what Weber calls a transitional structure. It doesn't stay with you all the time. It depends on circumstances. Whereas the more basic levels, they stay with you all the time. Now, the Weber has also put forth what we call the idea of self-system, and I will explain this, which operates on the basic structures of transitional or leadership. And this is more like when we were, studying psychiatry. We still studying psychiatry, but I mean my students. We had a discussion of the functions of the ego. Now we put it together as parts of functions of the mind. And I put up a diagram, my own representation of this in order to guide us. So you have self-identity and will, organization, defense, metabolism, and navigation. I will explain this in a diagram. So, but this is what you see as representations or functions of the mind. So the mind has an aspect of it that you will always know who you are and you want to get back to who you are. But there's an aspect of the mind with which you assert yourself, with which your motivations are channeled into, and that's the will. But you also have an aspect of the mind with which you organize the day. You know you have to wake up in the morning, brush your teeth, have a bath, maybe pray if you are such a human being, and then take your breakfast, go to work and all that, after bathing, of course. And then, so that's the one that organizes your day, your life. So there's an aspect of the mind that is with. There's also an aspect of the mind with which you defend yourself. For instance, when you are assaulted, when people try to run you down or do you in, you try to defend yourself, you mount to defense. In psychoanalysis, this defense is often conceptualized as happening in the unconscious. But this is called ego defense mechanisms. They are very well known, characterized by this book. But then there's the aspect of the mind which we call metabolism. Now this is the real mind, the thinker. That's the one that thinks, the one that is all over the place. Anything that happens, sensation, news, anything, you think about it. Because that metabolism, you go through it. Then there's the aspect of the mind in which you mount the stages of development because that navigation. In other words, it distinguishes six aspects of mental functioning. Remember, all these things function together. We try to split them up in order to have a better understanding. But in reality, they function together. The point is, scientists are very good at breaking things into small portions, which we present studies and they do business with. So his group, they added the insight that whereas virtually all the theories, those 17 people, or theories ended at what we call the functions for personal development, e.g., formal operation of PNG, or Maslow's self-actualization. These are the peaks. of those theories. Can we by saying that the personality actually has the potential to go towards what is called the transpersonality, or some people may wish to call spirituality. The earliest conception of this transpersonal self in conventional or Western psychology is found in William James' book, Varieties of Religious Experience. That idea has now entered conventional psychology with journals devoted to it, like Journal of Transpersonal Psychology. This is an attempt to bring scientific rigor into a field that is easily dominated by superstitious beliefs, fundamentalism, and mysticism. So, borrowing from the psychology of Western philosophy from the Eastern world, they have suggested that if you end the quest of psychological growth at a personal level, that is, for instance, Maslow's self-actualization, if that is all you are aiming at doing, you are actually foreclosing the attainment of the higher potentials of man to higher purpose. For instance, a child who just gets the level of profit and doesn't want to get up beyond that, or gets to the level of walking but doesn't want to get to the level of running. See, you are actually foreclosing further attainment of higher states of even physical functioning. So they are saying that psychological growth does not or should not end at, for instance, overmasking self-actualization and so on and so forth. And this was articulated in their book, Transformations of Consciousness. I think people should get to read this book. It's really transforming in my own consciousness. Okay? So I'm going back to describing um, the basic structures of consciousness. And from there, I will tell you about the various aspects of the mind. I'm trying to unpack the Weber's description of the basic structures of consciousness as related to the transitional structures. Let's see this thing makes going through. So it's like climbing through the rungs of the ladder. So you find that when you are born, 0 years of age, to 1 year, you are functioning as a sensory motor, as Piaget would call it, a sensory physical. What concerns you in the realms of matter, sensation, and perception. This is biological. You have to go through that. That's what the nervous system implies. But then, soon elements of the mind and emotion start growing. And you have the fantastic emotional. He's talking about mind changes emotion. The emotional and sensual level, the lower or image mind, the simplest form of mental system, where this person is using only images. So babies at this stage, we just show them images. But then we come to the representational mind, or Piaget's pre-operational thinking. Piaget is the one really who describes this stage well. But it develops in two stages. We have to understand what we mean by symbols and concepts in this way. So if you take an image, for instance, it represents a specific object, like a tree. So you bring up a tree and show a child this is a tree. That's an image. But you want the child to go beyond that just image. You want the child to be able to carry a more efficient distinction. That's the symbol. So to tell the child, look, these three can be represented not just by the tree itself, but by a word called tree. E-R-E-T, of that object, which doesn't look like it. The word E-R-E-E doesn't look like a thing. It's a symbol. So the child has to get to that level, and I'll tell you how we are doing it. But the concept is a wider representation of the object. So, for instance, the concept of a tree encompasses all types of trees, with roots, stem, branches. It's no longer just tree. And that's how we teach children the kindergarten to spell apple. We say A is for apple, B is for this. So that's what you're grappling with. You are grappling with somebody who has a representational mind, and that is simply what the nervous system is. So rule role mind, this is what we call concrete particular thinking. Can perform rules such as multiplication. Then we come to Piaget's really highest level, formal operations, where this person can now think properly in his scope. And that's what Piaget taught. But the Weber is saying that there's also the level of vision logic where this person can not just introspect but philosophize. So you have the philosopher's mind. This is beyond Piaget's formal attention. Then the three transpersonal levels, the psychic, this marks the beginning of the transcendental, the transpersonal, and contemplative development. The telepathic mind, the intuitive mind. Then there are other levels. It's also because of these ones are more interesting because they are too high. So let's just keep for the future. Then you have the self system which I described to you, the six parts of them that I suppose that if you look at the mind, you have the one self-identification. This is the locus of, I'm going to put up a diagram that is it, but I just want to give you the theory as a concept so that you will be able to understand me for that when I now put it in the diagram picture. So what it means to say I or me is located as a representation of the self, the self system. As I said, these things function together. And I describe the organization, the one that gives you puts your day, in a streamlines your day so that you are organized, you can understand you. Then you have the one that makes you to have a free choice to start yourself or determine to go away. Then the one that defends you when you have problems, you have to defend yourself to speak. And so then the public in the one that actually thinks. I'm giving more details of what I've said in previous series. And then the one that navigates, that goes, for instance, at the physical level, the one that goes from sitting to crawling to standing to walking to running and talking. So also in the side of the mind, the one that goes from what we call sensory physical level of sensibility to the higher levels of psychological function. So what we find is that the example is that the self is like someone climbing a ladder. That ladder is the rungs of it are the basic structures of existence. So that we move from concern with matter, that's the physical, to the body, to the emotion, like when we say attachment emotional, to the mind, and to soul and spirit at the transpersonal level. So that's what is happening. At each stage, there's a danger of pathology. It's either you get fixated at the case at that stage, like when you're fixated at the other stage, then you have drug addiction. or you are not able to differentiate yourself from the environment, or actually you deteriorate. So there are three elements in the toxic structure, and I want to use the metaphor of the ladder. So you have the basic structures if you take a ladder for instance. So if you conceive the psyche as consisting of a ladder with a climber. So there is a ladder and there is somebody who is climbing on that ladder. All of us know that any ladder is made up of rungs or steps. So the basic structures of that ladder in the mind, they constitute the rungs of the ladder. So you have the physical, fantastic, emotional, and others. These are biologically limited. These are steps we must stop. Then there are the transitional structures, which actually consist of, in this example, the views you may have of the world. For instance, when you are at a higher level of functioning, you view the world at a certain level of morality. But that level of morality can shift, as I said, depending on circumstances. And also, that level of morality can actually be improved upon, like the living and purpose. I should climb the ladder of development. So, these transitional structures, as I say, that is your need. The basic needs, your moral tendencies and tendencies, they change with time. They can improve or actually deteriorate depending on the situation. These things, using the example of the ladder, we call them the views. You go at each level, each rung of the ladder. So, as opposed to these rungs of the ladder, there is a sound system of functions which is the one actually taking the step, climbing the ladder. So that if you use the method of function with me, you find that each level of development represents some food you are taking. Is it a physical food, emotional food, mental food, or spiritual food? What is your concern? What are the kind of values, the kind of things that sustain you, justify your mind? Now, these represent your level of development. And if that food, that level of nutrition is not properly digested, is not properly integrated into you, is not properly understood, then there is sacrifice. So to make those stages, which I'm going to elaborate upon in a diagrammatic sense more, I'll give you something which you are not big class in society in India with. This is against transformation, which is from this stage, the point is object permanence. And this we saw in the book by Gilgard Atkinson and Atkinson, which we read when we were doing primary in Europe. It was really very great. See a child, when the child is playing with an object, to remove it. He forgets the object. But at a certain stage, when you remove it, he starts crying for it. In other words, the goal here is to develop object permanence. Object permanence means the object exists once you have known about it, whether it is in your front or it has been removed. It is not given. You get to the level where an object is permanent. Okay? But once you have achieved that, you have achieved that. So the pre-operational level, like I was saying, symbolic thought using the image of a tree. I've given you the example of this already. Concrete operational, which means you can do arithmetic, but not yet algebra and geometry. You remember when we were in school, you did arithmetic when we were in primary school. But once you got to secondary school, you are beyond 12 years of school, then you should be. They send children there now 10 years, so they have problems. So that's when you can start to grasp the idea of conjugal unity and strategy. The formal operational, which I've already, that's a high level, the now adults, we can do scientific review. This is a very cut down, simpler presentation, and can read us highly elaborated, and that is can read us highly elaborated. So we find that sensory physical, that is stage one, or stage one, as we call it, fantastic emotional, representational mind, rule mind, formal reflective, vision logic, psychic. These are the various stages now broken down beyond differentiation. I'll give you a more dramatic piece now that you find the breakdown so that from stages one to this, that's where you find the first personal growth. That is before you become fully conscious of yourself as even an adolescent. And when you grow, so that's the pre-personal level. When you grow more, then you have the rule mind, as I said, where you can do formal operations like arithmetic calculation, up to the point where you are able to, reason as an adult. That's personal. Then the transpersonal level, psyche, subtle and positive. Just ignore these other areas, but it's to show you, because we don't know what any of you will say tomorrow. Somebody will come, you will then be interested and elaborate on it today. What I'm showing this is that when Weber said that it is very wrong to psychology, stop teaching psychology at this level, at the personal level. You should also teach psychology at the okay, growth is also the present at the higher level. So these are ones in green, and I put them in green color to show that they are of the earth, they are of the earth, they grow. See the ones in yellow are now what we call the transitional structures. The various levels of Maslow's basic, character of needs, or Lawrence Kohlberg's moral development, they are also stages, up to 8 of them, so depending on whom you're talking about. So that's why I put them in yellow, in the sense that they are transitional, but they are there, and they drive us forward or into trouble, depending on how much we absorb them. So what I've done here now is to tell you the origin of these thoughts in me, actually. I paid tribute to my time in the Brown Hall of University of Nevada, UC. That's where I got these ideas, the idea of man know thyself, and I shall know the universe. It is really a quest of my life, really, to get to know the diagram I'm going to show you next. Right? That's following the Delphic injection. In the whole Sovereign Brown Hole, I was actually reading a lot for them. I was to say learning, so I was reading philosophers like Rene Descartes. I think they are around. So these things have haunted me, they have driven me, and I'm coming down now to give you a synthesis of where I've been in this journey, right from when I was a medical student in the whole surveillance of the Brown Hole. So that's where you are now. I'll give you a more colorful presentation. This is my own synthesis from Ken Wilber. Recall that Ken Wilber told us that there are basic structures and that there are transitional structures. So I'll put them this way. What I've done here is to put forth something like a body. You understand the idea of a physical body, but you don't understand the idea of a psychic body. So I've represented that. The initial idea that actually came to me was when you have a thought, you feel to put, the one that women carry, and you have a hinge at the center, and you close it and you open it. That idea came to me. So there are parts that are related but different. So you have the basic structures that we mentioned, starting from physical, fantastic, emotional, and so on and so forth. Till this point, so all these points from this level of consciousness, personal to personal, then the higher levels of consciousness. So I perceive that there is a basic structure that is in two parts. The pre-personal to personal, that is the one we all understand. And also what you might call the uh, transpersonal or spiritual, whatever you want to call it. But it means that there are higher levels. I'm saying that following Ferrero, these are also biologically rooted. They are biologically rooted. As the last slide we synthesize this again. So these are the basic structures. You climb through them in stages and you go up from the free conscious through the conscious mind and through the transpersonal. Then these are views, these are the transitional states you have, like there's about Maslow's levels, physiological needs, safety needs, belongingness needs, up to self-actualization. But now Penguin was adding self-transcendence. So you become, let's say, spiritual. Let's say you have to add a higher dimension to life. So these are transitional stages. And we say that it's like being on the rung of the ladder and having a view in this direction. But then this is the self that climbs. This one that, is around the dome of this structure. So at that dome, you have the self-identity, a sense of identity of yourself. You also have your sense of will. And part of that, you also have your capacity to organize your day and your capacity to defend yourself from, people attacking you or whatever. And then you have the part of you that we are more familiar with, the one that thinks. When you take out, I think, therefore, I exist. Cogito is the thing. It's the metabolizer. And then the one that actually navigates, the navigator. So we find that what happens here is that there is the I am the one, me, and all that. That I is the same one you know yourself when you were 16 years old. You can remember from then, or maybe earlier, to when you are an adult now. It's the same mind that's active, the same point I. When you are dreaming, when you are asleep, you also recognize yourself, and it's the same I that you may call the transpersonal or the God in you. Right? It's the same I represented all things, but having as its agent the mind that is functioning. Let's put this in a more colorful back, and that's what we have here. So it's clearer here. The basic structure, pre-personal to personal, and the basic structure transpersonal. And these are the views. So these are the stages, the steps of the ladder. These are the views. That is Abraham Maslow's stages or Lawrence Kohlberg's moral stages or the living as sense of self. depending on which transitional structure we want to put in. So these are the levels of consciousness when you were a baby, like personal before you become matured, to now when you're supposedly matured, like the personal, and to when you become, let's say, a master of the wisdom. Like I've always impressed me. I've always wanted to be a master of the wisdom. So now you have sense of yourself, the one that thinks or has ambition, and that's it. Self-identity, the will with which you carry on, you sit on what to do, like you're sitting to record this lecture, despite all the disadvantages. Your car is taking life and sweating like a dog here, but I insist on making this record. And then the metabolizer. So I'm using the wheel doing all this. And taking away all distractions, from me. And that's the wheel that helps me to do that. And then the self that says, this is your job, this is your duty, it's your time. Then the one that climbs, the navigator. I don't know whether you can see this one. I have to thank two of my patients. I can't name them, but they were the ones who did this. Believe me, my patients in my services. I'll just call them B and N, as initials of their names. They are the ones who put up these diagrams. I'm not able to put up these diagrams. So that is, I drew a sketch of what I wanted. Then they used Microsoft Word and got off drawing. I don't know how they did it, but they gave me this. I'm very thankful to them for having been my staff teacher. One of them actually had transitioned, the one I called M, to becoming a staff with the hospital. And so that's how I relate to transition and the body. Anyway, of the two novel ideas I was telling you, this is one of them. That is putting up a diagrammatic representation that is not yet available to the literature. How does the psyche do the body? This is my conception. And this perception has grown from the time I was a medical student at the University of Ibadan to now when I'm over 30. So you can imagine the more than 15 years journey to be able to put on this. I thank God for that and the opportunity to present this. So as I said, we have to know that I'm not saying that this is how the self appears. It is only an intellectual model which has actually been a preoccupation of mine from when I was a medical student. I have always wanted to build an intellectual model for what I call the mystical reality. How you are up here when we are not able to see you with our eyes, you know, when we are in our sightless process. Okay, so I will go on to the second novel idea. I presented the first one, which is the diagnosis representation. And I present the second novel idea. I would always thought as a neurologist, all that you told us the method of psychotherapy, like re-association, was actually how we saw the nerves, freely associated. And that's what happened. However, in his book, or in the story of his book that I saw in this our Bible of psychiatry, the American Bible, if you call it, in the first edition there was actually the diagram. It's not available anymore. How he drew complex diagrams of the relationship between the mind and the brain. Complex, nobody could understand it, but that inspired me, and I've thought how we can put it together, how we can unravel it. And this is a concern of the field of cognitive neuroscience. cognitive neuroscience, the modern era, is about the way of presenting the mind in the brain, the mind and behavior in the brain. Okay, so let's see. When it goes to latest is a man in California, this is universities, Maryland, so that the specialists have a reference in the room about the default mode network. In other words, he's saying that the mind is actually situated in the following way. There's a default mode network. This is a system in operation. I'll show you the diagram, so don't worry. It's in operation when the individual is at rest. For example, when you are in the country, and this state is probably equivalent to the theta and alpha waves of community. It is likened to the sense of self-identity. The science network we are more familiar with because there was a time in DSM-4 when it was thought that schizophrenia should be described or labeled as a disorder of abstinence failure, that is, inability to choose what to attend to in the stimuli that are bombarding your senses. So this is a network that's in operation where I have to choose these stimuli to attend to. And to me, it can be likened to the will. That's to me. And then the executive network, where we are more familiar with this again, when we talk about executive function. And that is, it can be likened to cerebral republic. So these three networks, I'll give you the gamma proposal. So we find that the harmonious function of these core networks is what gives rise to the complex phenomena of the mind in the brain. And so that in conclusion, for me, the fulfillment of Freud is to mind insights from cognitive neuroscience, that is this simple network, and Weber's full spectrum model. So representing psychoanalysis for the mind, modern, and the mythology of psychology. And this is in the paper by Mellon. This is it's a whole full out, it's a complex book, but at least you can understand the abstract of the conclusion of the it's a large book. Can you imagine 483 to 560 pages? So these are the diagrams. We look at the um, the first mode network and the series network. In the next diagram, I will include the executive network. So we are not talking about nucleus that are on their own. We are talking about nucleus functioning in concept. They are working together. So the default mode network consists of functioning together. The media prefrontal cortex, we are more familiar with the lateral prefrontal, but that's for executive network. Combining with posterior cingulate, the posterior cingulate area and the right and left parietal area. So they combine, they work together, it is a network. In other words, these large nuclei are actually sometimes the synthesis of the sense of self and all. Then you have the salience network that consists of anterior cingulate and the right and left anterior insula. So hold it in mind once again, the default mode network consisting of medial prefrontal cortex, the posterior cingulate, and the left and right parietal. So this default mode network encompasses, as I said, all these, as well as the supplemental brain regions, including temporal areas. And this default mode network is a relatively new concept. It's a recent concept actually. And because of this, there is not a complete consensus on what brain regions should be included in the definition. So we get more out of this as time goes on. Regardless, structures that are generally considered part of the um, that network are here as I've already stated. So I can tell you about this from the Wikipedia, and you can, it's free online, you can go and get it. So you are free to know them. It's known to be involved in many seemingly different functions, but basically it is the neurological basis for the self, your memories and your recollections of yourself. You reflect, referring to traits and descriptions of oneself. Emotion of yourself, your theory of mind, that is how you think of others, what we might call social intelligence, emotional intelligence. So as I said, emotions of the other people, understanding the emotions of none of us what to call these days social intelligence and emotional intelligence, and moral reasoning and social evaluation. Too many of them just remember the major function sides of it. Now, this is a more familiar area, what we call the executive, central executive network. It's involved in sustained attention, complex problem solving, and working memory. As described it, resilience there too, but the resilience network facilitates switching between this central executive and what we call the development network. In the diagram I'm showing you below, so that in psychodynamic form, the executive function nucleus could be described as the executive branch or the synthetic peak. The science network now have already changed the solar and the cingulate circuit. It's involved in detecting or treating salient stimuli so that in schizophrenia, for instance, we're told what is happening is that the capacity to know that the voice you're hearing is not actually important in terms of your reality. What is happening to you and you fail to make that judgment. So also your thoughts, your thinking, you have delusional ideas, and you are not able to know that these ideas coming from you are not salient with respect to your reality. So, and so on and so forth. These are okay. So you have the salience network that chooses between the default mode network and the central executive. What to do, what to choose, you know, like Hamlet, to do or not to do, what is salient, what you need. And I'm saying consists of anterior cingulate cortex and then the insula, whereas the default mode network consists of the medial prefrontal cortex and also the posterior cingulate and the lateral parts of the parietal. Whereas central executive network consists of the basolateral prefrontal cortex and all these enable plane as mentioned. So this is a diagram that synthesizes the triple network. So what do we do from there? I told you what's in my point and saying we was looking for a position or understanding from physiology or chemical that will help us to understand the functioning and the structure of the mind. And here we are. Here we are that the triple network is now situated, is now the one that situates, that houses this function. You can speculate on the following relationship. That the salient network seems to fit in the brain as the brain coordinate of the will and the navigator, like I mentioned to you in the earlier diagram from novel idea 1. Whereas the executive network seems to mediate the metabolizer, the internalizer, and the defense. And the fourth mode network mediates the sense of sense, sense of identity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is really the peak of the presentation, where I think we are intended to produce two novel ideas to you. So this is the second one, where we situate the structure and function of the mind in the structure of the brain. So actually this idea is a broader one, because there are models of schizophrenia, depression, and anxiety within the triple network. This is more on the scientific side. And this is the inspiring personalized psychotherapy, which is the current goal of genetic human genetics, economics. We want to have what we call personalized needs. The salience network is more known as I said for schizophrenia. The executive network is more operating. I'm now talking about relationship with psychotherapy. So relationship with how the neurons are moved together. Whereas the brain mood network is thought to house dementia and autism. So this is a diagram that puts it together. So we have the salience network relating the will and navigation. Remember I told you that in those my patients who do these diagrams, I just had my idea, sketched it on paper, and then they looked inside my process to us. I put this together. I continually find creative individuals who were foolish enough to be involved in drug addiction. But they are good children. So the executive network is housing a metabolizer, analyzer, and defense, whereas the default mode network is housing self-esteem. So what is the value of these insights in psychotherapy? Well, psychotherapy is what we are inspiring us to describe this place. We have to achieve a deeper psychodynamic understanding of the patient based on individual level of psychological development, so that if we want to treat personality disorders and identity confusion, we have to be able to understand the person's developmental level, so as to be able to formulate a more individualized therapy instead of the one-size-fits-all model that we have, for instance, in 2020 behavior. Incidentally, these therapies, the vast majority of them, CBT and others, they are what Kenuda calls uncovering techniques. Why do you mean that? Because the basic idea is what I told you, that there is a repression. The superego forces the id to repress memories and not allow them to bubble up the conscious. And that may lead to anxiety, uh, what do I call it, obsessions, if you find that the id overwhelms the ego, or depression, if the superego, overwhelms the ego. So you have depression and things. So these are, when you engage them in psychotherapy, you try to uncover, to go into the process, to bring out these materials that have been depressed, bring them to the surface, to sunlight, and let the person understand them. And then the person can see the engagement. So we call these uncovering techniques. These are different from when you're dealing with a person who has, for instance, borderline personality or narcissistic people, like we have on the world stage right now. We have people who are really narcissistic, top there. How do you deal with them? They don't have an unconscious. They are very open in what they want to say, what they want to do. And it's all about themselves. They are very, you demanding, demanding that their own impulses are what is real. So you're not uncovering anything. They've told you everything. They've told you their basics. Can we assume that these people, they did not come up to building up that level of ego? So your job really is to build them up so that they have a safe ego. The ego that they have as it is are really very hard-to and dangerous. So we have to build them up and get them to, you know, become nice person, kind, compassionate, instead of wicked, you and selfish. So the uncovering techniques, we use them in CBT because we are trying to uncover something in the unconscious, which has been repressed. Because I said, it's a one-size-fits-all model because people who have personality disorder, like narcissistic people, they don't have that unconscious. They didn't repress anything. Everything is in open. You need to do. So that will be our final slide actually to show that what we have done is to put together the field of phenomenology led by the person that is these people, they are philosophers, but their preoccupation with perception, or their preoccupation was with perception, was philosophical inquiry using the methods of what I call EUA, empathy, understanding, and observation. I've also linked psychoanalysis and developmental psychology, that's Freud and the Freudians, and Kierkegaard's perspective, development where it says that the self plans a letter of basic structures and transitional structures. Okay, so you have to have the psychotherapy based on understanding of the level that this person is in their developmental psychology. So you have psychopathology, which is what psychiatrists in this book are doing. And we are studying abnormal perception. Remember that phenomenologists are not interested in abnormal perception. Except of course Kaldaski, who was psychiatrist too, and introduced the idea of psychopathology, general psychopathology. So you have psychopathology dealing with abnormal perception, abnormal mood, normal thoughts, and related abnormal behavior. All these are housed in the triple network model of Lennon with the default mode, the salience mode, and the executive mode. They house the psyche and the psychic. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Professor Dufia, sir, the lecture has ended. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Dr. Abiola. I don't know, is he on
Yeah,
to take questions now,
is
or we write down the questions, discuss the ones? then he can join us when he has good network.
Sir,
I think that's what we should do.
he's available, sir, and he's on me.
He's available.
Yes, sir. Please, Pro, kindly
Okay,
unmute
that's
yourself.
beautiful. So in the next several minutes, let's feel free to either lift up our hands and ask questions or type questions in the chat group so that Professor Ohaeri can take them.
Uh, Best of the day, everyone. Thank you, Prof, sir, for the lecture. Each time you present it, it keeps improving my understanding, and it keeps giving me uh, to come to the that without this foundation, without having a foundation to understand how what is the mind, because you have given us that the mind exists. There are structures, both biological structures and also the theory that try to tie how those structural basic structure, the basics, the foundations of what the mind is and what the mind does. That it's not just the brain structure that is lying there, not the different part of the brain, but those brain structures are doing something. And you have tried to give us that they have the basic foundation, and from the basic foundation, that there are those intermediate structures that now give us to what we see as ourselves or otherwise, in terms of our identity, our will, defenses, and I don't know, sir, how you be able. Of course, you mentioned some part of it, but at what point will you be able to pick when this will point us towards a suffering, maybe a surface level problem or a deep level problem? Maybe where you can give us what it means, extra psychic and intrapsychic. And I know you do cite example about people with borderline personality disorder, but looking at this structure, because I'm looking at it, that it provides like a framework where where individual with their training can be able to put in the structure. Like you have cited the psychodynamics, you have cited the cognitive schools. So I'm just still trying to see how to synthesize this in order to help us that okay, when we have this our baseline of understanding what a psychological suffering is, then how do we be able to pick out those issues in order to be able to help the individual? I hope I'm able to formulate my question. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Taju.
Yes,
I
sir.
hope you're hearing me all.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Owedo. Owedo, are you there? Is he there?
He's there. I think he mute himself.
Okay, well, tell him I was
Sorry,
hiding
Jude, I'm
myself.
hearing you. I'm hearing you.
I
I'm
was
hearing you.
hiding myself from you, Owedo, because I became afraid of you some time ago. But Taju, let me give an example of using the developmental stages. By a patient with addiction problem that I'm seeing now, and you ask him, my friend, what do you see about this drug something? Is it anything wrong with it? He said, no. His issue is he's a dealer that is just doing a business and he's just selling the thing. If you like, you come and buy from him. If you don't like, you go away. But he has to find a way of living and surviving in the country. So you see his level of the moralness. If you want now, you can condemn him and that you say he has no conscience, he has no anything. So this kind of person
who just sees his own profit, his own level. He just wants to survive and cannot see the amount of suffering his survival is causing other people. You can't berate him, you can't tell him he's an idiot or anything. And then, of course, you cannot start psychotherapy him. You see, his problem is that his level of development, moral development, just hasn't made it. It hasn't come down there. And so your job first is to bring him to that level of development. Maybe from educating him, so psychoeducation will come in. You first have to let him get to that level of moral development where he sees that the world is not about him surviving. It's not you'll be wasting time. There will be nothing to uncover. There will be no unconscious conflict because in psychotherapy you are dealing with unconscious conflicts or something like that. There is nothing yet. You have to get him to be up at that level before you can start psychotherapy. That's what I mean. There are other examples, but let me start with that.
I think Professor Oliver said if somebody who want to speak after there is silence, we can unmute ourselves and speak. But while we're waiting for others to unmute themselves, if I may ask, based on the
Yeah, go
model
ahead.
you gave us, and you have stressed it again, that intermediary place seems to work for all forms of a theoretical basis of understanding what a normal and abnormal function of the mind is. That is looking from the humanistic and the moral viewpoint. That the humanistic point, like the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and the uh, Kohlberg moral stages. So I'm looking at that. That seems to be central as a filter for anyone that may function well or that may have a disease of the mind. That area, people must be able to the navigation of that intermediate area is very essential in order to be able to improve the function of the individual, or that may continue to perpetuate the abnormal functioning of the individual. I don't know if that's the interpretation I got. I don't know if that.
Thank you, Taju. That's exactly what he said. That
Thank you, sir.
assessment, psychic assessment,
Yes, sir.
formulating a patient involves all this, trying to understand their value system, the basis on which they believe, and not to be judgmental about them and say that they don't even understand, they don't know anything. No, they know things at their own level of value system. You have to understand people's value system, which is what the transitional structures are about. And those value systems change. They usually give you examples of Nigerians who are very lawless in Nigeria and when you come to driving. When they go to New York or London, they hold themselves up because they know if they go wrong, they'll be punished.
I've seen it. Is this one?
Okay?
Yes.
So these transitional structures are always growing. They can go up and down. So if you are well restricted and behaving well in London, you come back to Nigeria, you wind down and be, like we say, when you're in Rome, you behave like Romans. You see, that's the kind of what the transitional structures are saying, that people are not always at the level of, let's say, morality, which you know them at this time. When they are given sufficient money, they can sell their heads. But there are people who, even if you give them the whole world, they will not budge. They will stand firm. Well, we thank God for them.
Pos-
But a lot of people, they can be bribed. They can be, even people go to receive Holy Communion. They can turn around the next time, as soon as they finish, when they are given sufficient inducement, they will do very bad things. So that's more like what you mean, those transitional structures. The value systems that people live on. you have to understand them, and you have to help them from that point of view, and not condemn them or say that they are inferior. You just have to understand where they are coming from. So you have to factor that in into your psychotherapy system.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, we can omit ourselves and add or ask our question. I've not seen any comments so far. If there are comments, please kindly let's. If you don't want to talk, you can type in your question or your clarification or your input into this. Thank you.
I'm seeing that Arit is here. Arit, Arit Sambado, Arit, Asian people are bigger than the Edo people. Are you there? I just wanted to ask and to also thank you for your work, Arit.
She
Okay.
she seems to have exit or network problem.
Okay. Okay, Taju, at least I'm very happy that you understood me. So that's enough for me.
I'm
Okay?
still I'm still
Yeah,
struggling. Thank you, sir.
that's enough for a teacher to know that at least one person has
No,
understood.
no, no. The fact that other people have said nothing doesn't mean they didn't understand.
Okay.
So that's hasty, Jude, to think it's only Taju who understood you. Others probably have the questions. Maybe they don't want to ask it directly now. Um, yeah, but I don't know.
Okay. Oh, no, this is really very nice of
Really
you.
very nice.
You are not
What time?
usually as kind as this. So it's very nice to hear you talking like this. Thank you very much, my friend.
Today Saturday is God's Sabbath, so I said nice things only on Saturdays.
Oh, I should know when to come near you
To
now, my
come near
friend.
you now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, profs.
Yeah. Yeah. Jude,
Okay.
Abiola, I think we are stepped a little beyond our time.
Yes, sir.
But like I said when we started, this is just the opening to the discussion. The recording of the session will be posted. I think you should post the last three so that those who came in, I noticed some people came in the last today or some yesterday, so that if you repost all three, people can listen to the three lectures and they'll be free to make comments on any of them, so that discussions can go on for the rest of the week. So that by the time we're having a new lecture next Saturday, people would have come abreast at the same point, so they can get on with the next lecture. So please repost the three lectures so that new
Yes, sir.
people can go through, and questions would be and discussions could be initiated in any of them, so that we can get on with. So that at least by the end of Friday, we'll all be at the same level to take the next set of lectures.
Yes,
So,
sir.
gentlemen, ladies who've
No,
said
oh, no, just wait. Oh, please. One of Dr. Garba, Professor A.G. Garba from Canada, he came in and left. Is he there? He's
It's,
usually asking questions, but he's muted now.
it's,
Professor Gabs, as you prefer to call yourself,
it seems to have
I'm surprised. No, he's here. I see.
okay.
Okay, it's AO. Okay, it's okay then. Thank you very much. And Owedoho, you and Taju, Secretary thanks you. Actually, Nigeria thanks you for the devotion you are showing to this cause. Please go on. All the good spirits of Nigeria are behind you, and you shouldn't be afraid. We'll protect you by sea, air, and land from all your enemies.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Some
Okay.
people are also grateful to you on the chat bot. Um, Mrs. Beatrice, Dr. Nafisa, they are all very grateful for your lecture. And Dr. Nafisa also added that this provide the level playing field needed to understand initiating psychotherapy. If I may ask, I don't know how you can help us further synthesize this to see that it can seems to feature as we start learning formulation and all those things along the line, because this framework seems that it can provide a basis to simplify the understanding of those aspects that will make it easier for us, like you said, to initiate. We need to understand what is happening, and this is a basis to help us achieve that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, we'll carry on another time. Okay.
Yes, sir. Professor Dufa, if there are more announcements, sir.
No, they are not. I'm just reminding people that there'll be, like, I have a few things out there, just chat in the chat group for during the week, especially about the understanding of the mind. I have this psychiatrist I'm close with. We actually share the same office, and we spend all our half our time contesting what the mind is and where it is. So I'm sure some of the discussions we've had, I'll be able to share with the rest of the people in the team so that we'll all be at the same level by the time the week is run out. So no other announcement, but that we should check the chat group and see what comments and what questions there are. We answer them. Don't run away from answering questions, even if you are not the one who gave the lecture, so that when you answer a question, you get it wrong. So bloody what? You get it wrong. Other people will correct, and we all be at the same level eventually. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Judy, if you are still around, thanks a lot. Tajuddin, you've been a blessing to all of us, so thank you. So until next Saturday, 10:30. So long.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.